This is Sustainable Voices, where ideas for a better future speak loud. Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Imagine if your city wasn't just a place to live, but it helps to get you through stressful days. According to the World Health Organization, this is entirely possible. Cities can be designed to promote both our physical and also our social health. We need fitting solutions. This is where restorative environments come into play. Exactly what we, as a young and active generation, need. And with that, I would like to welcome you to today's episode. I'm Maya and my colleague
Dominic. We are so glad you're joining us today.
Well, we will be guiding you through our exciting episode about restorative environments and how they support mental health. And today, we are joined by our wonderful guest, Hannah.
Hannah has a background in business psychology. She has explored topics in environmental psychology and has knowledge of how our environment affects our mental well-being. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
Nice, thank you for your time. So today we are talking about restorative environments, and Dominic will take a little overview about it.
Why do we even need something like restorative environments? I mean, our everyday lives are crazy busy, right? We're juggling a million things, and let's be honest, it can totally be draining. The result? Exhaustion. Ever feel like you just want to escape somewhere peaceful? Yeah, same here. Now, this is especially true if you're living in a city. Urban environments can be stressful and overwhelming, and they take a toll in our mental health. But here's the cool thing. Having access to places like parks, green spaces, or quiet zones can actually help reduce stress and improve our overall well-being. And this idea fits perfectly with how the World Health Organization defines health. Not just the absence of illness, but complete physical, mental, and social well-being.
And the psychologist Stephen Kaplan had an interesting view on the topic. He said, stress isn't always bad, but we need a balance. Without it, maybe we can burn out. Kaplan said that what really helps is loosening our super tight, focused attention. He called this directed attention. And while it's great for tackling tasks, it's also a limited resource. When it runs out, we experience like a mental fatigue. Things like trouble concentrating, feeling irritable, or just not being as sharp as we usually are.
This is where restorative environments come in. These are spaces designed to help us recover from mental exhaustion and get our focus back on track. Kaplan even developed a whole theory around what he called restorative experiences. The idea is that when your attention is fried, we need environments that don't just allow us to rest, they actively promote restoration.
So, Hannah, let's start with you. What is or does your favorite place for a relaxation look like?
Actually, first thing that comes to my mind is a memory of a specific spot at the beach in Australia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was like walking along the beach in white sand and see the waves coming and going and just hearing the voice of the water, some birds.
So is there like any specific features other than the waves and the birds that really make this place stand out to you?
Honestly, I think it's more about the quiet without any other people, so it's kind of a secret beach with palm trees and some mountains in the back, and yeah, just having fresh air so you can clear your mind.
I totally can agree on that. I also feel like very relaxed when I'm in the forest where it's quiet, like the same thing you said. Also at the beach, it's like different to our city life, I would say. So they are always, we're so try to fit in something, but it feels so relaxing if we're like in the nature where we can see the horizon. And as you said, like hearing the waves, it's really nice. I can get that point totally.
Vacation is always great, right?
Sure, of course.
And according to Terry Harting, it's more about than just peace and quiet, as you already said. He defined restorative environments also as a space that actively support recovery through features like, for example, soft fascination. And like soft fascination is, for example, thinking about staring at a beautiful sunset or watching waves roll onto the shore or even wandering through a forest. Like those experiences gently capture our attention in a way that doesn't feel demanding. So it's different from walking through a city where we have like so many noises, so many different colors. And this really gives our minds a chance to recharge. But where do we actually find those restorative environments?
Well, we have various options at home, and we get it. Taking breaks from our fast-paced, stressful lives is crucial, but the big question is, where are these magical places? Well, nature is one of the best options out there. Why? Because it checks all of the boxes for what makes an environment restorative.
Hannah, what role does nature play in your personal recovery process?
Whenever I need a break from my everyday student life, and especially right now during exam phase, my favorite place for relaxation is walking a trail right behind our campus. And the trail winds through a lush forest with lots of trees arcing overhead. And depending on the season, every corner looks different, but still beautiful. And even if the picture looks pretty brownish right now, you can still see the beauty in it. And out in the forest, I feel like I can just breathe so deeply that I can unleash everything bad and take in fresh air and therefore also new energy.
Something that I wonder about is, do you think for you to recover from stress, it is enough to go into nature, like sometimes after school, after university, after work? Or do you think it's always necessary to do like a real holiday, for example, in the mountains or at the sea, to really recover?
I think in our sometimes stressful everyday life, it's very important to have those short vacations.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, you need to do that more often, but you don't have the opportunity to go on vacation every time you feel stressed. So there are different options, like listening to a mindfulness podcast or something like that. It's also like a vacation for me. But what helps me the most really is going into the nature, even if it's just for an hour, just walk through the forest and breathe deeply.
I feel the same. Like, I have a dog, and since I have the dog, I really feel that I have like a lower stress level. What's pretty interesting as well is, in our generation, I would say it seems more attractive to go into cities and even stress ourselves more by seeing so many things, so many options. And it's like an overload that we put in our lives in our free time.
Mm.
And older generations where city life wasn't that common, they went more for a run, as you're still doing. That's good, Hannah. But I think that it's really missing in our generation. What do you think about that?
I think it depends on where you grew up. Because for me, I grew up on the countryside in a very small village where I have access to the forest or to do a walk in nature within 5 minutes. And when I did study abroad, I lived in the capital of Croatia, in Zagreb, and there I was not able to be in nature within 5 minutes, so I needed to find something else for relaxation. And I was able to do that. I started to admire street art and looked at impressive buildings and walked through very cute streets in cities.
That's a nice point. So, as we all three mentioned now, we talked about why restorative environments are essential and what they offer. Like, for example, the feeling of being away or like the soft fascination. But let's dig a little bit deeper what's actually happening in our brains when we spend time in these spaces. There is where Kaplan's attention restoration theory comes in. This theory explains how natural environments help us recover from mental fatigue. Remember that directed attention I already mentioned? It's the time of focus we use to tackle work, study, or demanding tasks.
And there's also another theory called the stress recovery theory. This one focuses on our unconscious emotional responses to the environment. So while the attention restoration theory helps us recharge mentally, the stress recovery theory reminds us that nature just doesn't work on our minds. It works on our bodies too.
Hannah, do you notice a difference between nature and urban settings when it comes to restoration?
Yes, definitely. Like I already said, during my bachelor studies, I've had the opportunity to live in different settings. And when I was in Croatia and in Zagreb, I had the opportunity to have that big city life. And I just needed to get a new definition of restorative environment for me.
For me, it helps to go, for example, on a rooftop. I don't know if you noticed this as well, but I lived 2 years in Barcelona. And with soft fascination, that is like, for example, nice to see the horizon. So in a city, you're like so focused because it's house after house, street after street. So you feel like you're such a small piece in such a big city in between so many buildings. And for example, for me, it helps to see the horizon or to see the sunset in the evening. So I really needed to search for places in Barcelona, maybe you're also in Croatia, where you can see the nature or feel more free.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially with rooftops, you're still in the city, right? But you're just setting a different view. So you're not just looking into these small streets. Something completely different is in the foreground. You look at all of the people walking there. You see the buildings, but the city is way more than that. Especially if you look in the horizon, see the sunset. In the end, effects of nature always play a role. Do you think that you always needed this kind of environment like nature in the city?
Yeah, I experienced that I really missed that easy access to nature. But with that walks, those allies, I feel like I can get close to that. But I can totally relate also to your thoughts on rooftops. Maybe another experience I can share with you was when I lived in Cologne for my practical semester. So also in a big city with lots of people, lots of polluted air.
Yeah.
If there was a possibility to go up somewhere to have a wider view, like you said, to look at the horizon, which is not possible if you are in those little streets. Fortunately, I lived in a shared flat, which had a rooftop terrace. I was able to let the sun shine on me whenever I had the feeling I need to.
Yeah.
I also think back to my experience in Oslo, which is like a great city with a lot of green spaces. But when I'm thinking at where I lived in the basement, so there wasn't something like a rooftop. Good thing about it was that it was somewhat on elevated surface, so it was on a hill. And then just looking at the city from the top is so nice. We had found a viewpoint, and this was like the best thing ever. I think that's really what makes city special.
Let me get more in detail to your point. You said that Oslo is like a good example for a city that includes restorative environments. Do you felt less stressed in Oslo than in a city in Germany?
Well, I have to look at that in two different views, because I have been in Oslo during winter time, so in the end, days were not that long. And I have been working basically the whole day. And after that, it has been completely dark. So obviously in this time, there was not really a way for me to get out of the stress levels, and I could feel that. But whenever the weekend came close, then I had the opportunity, and whenever the sun came up, I had to go out. I really could feel that, as you said, Oslo is a green city where you have these spaces. And I think these spaces really helped me to kind of reduce my stress levels during the weekend.
And you, Hannah, did you experience like a higher stress level in the big city in Croatia, or do you feel less stressed there?
In comparison to what I'm used to at home or here in Aalen for my studies, I would say I had the feeling that I feel more stressed about it. I really miss nature and having nature close to me.
Yeah, I feel the same. In Barcelona, I think something that really helped me to feel less being in a city was that they, in the past years, I think they understood the concept of restorative environments a bit more than they did before. They included a lot of green spaces into the city. This is also like one of those opportunities city planners have to include restorative environments into the city, to create, for example, more space between the houses, or to create spaces that are like free, like a park, or also to plant plants on the top of the roofs. So it also looks greener in general, and the air is not so polluted, and there's more opportunities to have fresh air. And they really understood it. So in the city center, a few streets that were like really crowded before, they rebuilt them with park areas. And there are so many trees and like also places where you can sit down and read a book or have a date or eat an ice cream. So it's a really nice thing they created in the city, that people come together and feel like more into nature, not that crowded city life.
Maja, would you then say this is really what made Barcelona special for you, or were there other parts that made Barcelona that special for you?
I think it's exactly that this city combines really well nature and city life. And for example, in Berlin, I've been in Berlin, for me, it's so gray. There are so many gray houses, less trees. And in Germany, in a lot of cities, they plan to invest more into restorative environments, but Germany lacks there, and we should invest more in it because it really could help our citizens to feel more productive, less stressed, and also have like a better mental health.
It's really interesting that you mentioned Berlin as a negative example, because in the preparation for the podcast, we checked the data. And what really surprised me personally was that Berlin was, I think, even the greenest city in Germany.
No way.
I was there and I was like, wait, this is just really gray. I really didn't feel comfortable here. I'm not sure if you had the same experiences.
Yeah, I felt the same, to be honest. Sure, there is this big garden right in the middle of the city, but can't remember anything that was calming me in that moment in that city, so yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's in a process.
Yeah,
maybe we should explore it more. But maybe we can think about the city we are all now. Dominic, what do you think about Aalen?
Yeah, I mean, Aalen is also a great example, because obviously it's not that big as Berlin, so they have the options to actually look into places. It's not that crowded, and it has not the density as Berlin has, for example. And therefore, Aalen was able to successfully integrate green spaces into its urban design. Most houses, even near the city center, have at least some point of connection to a strip of greenery. And I think that's so interesting that a small city can actually do that in comparison to a big city where they always lack out these spaces.
I can agree on that. Why do you think that integrating these spaces into cities can be so challenging, guys?
Yeah, I mean, as said, we have a difference of density. In the end, Aalen is not that big and has not been developed as a big city. If you look outside the window, I can only see small houses, like one family, maybe two family houses, and that makes a big difference in terms of density, just in general. There's just way more options for parks, and whenever you want to go outside, at least you can just go like 5 kilometers in one direction and you should be outside of the city.
I think Aalen is actually a pretty good example for a green city, because I feel like there is lots of greens, and even if we are sitting here in our new university building on the 4th floor, looking out of big windows with lots of trees and hills, and
it's very green.
Yeah, and you also have that wide view we were talking about.
Like here, you have the feeling of being away or have those self-fascination that helps us to recover the energy for our brain, like the theory of Kaplan.
Yeah, but still, if we are taking it back to big cities, what do you guys think can be really challenging about that? Like, why is it that hard to integrate the spaces?
I would like to come back to that point that more and more people want to live closer to city centers because they have more opportunities for work, for example, there, or for following their hobbies. So I don't know if it's because of that expansion that everybody wants to come to the city side, or maybe it's also because there's this huge wave of people who want to come to the city, and because of that, the city planners had no time to think about it in the long term. So they just needed to create space for the people to live, and there was no possibility to think sustainable.
Yeah.
What's really surprising is that you're telling us that people come to the cities. But right now, what we're currently seeing, of course, you're right. The past years, people were coming to the cities because there were more companies and you were just closer to all of the stores and so on. But now we have services that are just making life easy, also on the countryside. And now even things like remote work made things easier than ever. So did you know that Germany is experiencing its biggest wave of urban flight since 1994?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, more and more people are leaving cities behind and swapping all of their crowded streets and the high rents for greener spaces, cheaper living, and in the end, a slower pace of life. And suddenly the countryside and smaller towns are looking pretty appealing. But smaller towns are feeling the pressure nowadays. And the cities? They are just at risk of losing like diversity, the creativity, but also the innovation part that makes them in the end so exciting. And I'm not sure if I want to go into a future without vibrancy and the possibility to losing all of the social benefits that big city can deliver. With urban areas losing residents to rural areas due to noise and lack of space, do you think it's more important now than ever to promote restorative environments, Anna?
For sure. I think stress recovery is such a huge part of the trendy topics that our generation is confronted with. So I think also urban planning should put a point on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think cities should promote a lot more restorative environments to avoid the flee you talked about, that the people want to stay in the cities. And also because, as it is like our main topic, the mental health point is so important. And in our generation, people suffer so often from mental health problems that they don't have those strategies how to lower their stress level. And if we know that our brains really can lower the stress level by going into nature or seeing the material of nature, also wood, like that a city can include wood into their buildings or that they put a tree into the streets. This can help so much that the people like their city and feel welcomed. And I think all the cities in Germany and also like worldwide should take more investment into that.
Of course, but there are challenges of integrating restorative environments into the urban area, which is why we have invited the Office for City Planning in Aalen to make a statement regarding these obstacles. And we are very happy to share their insights with you. The Office for City Planning identified 5 challenges. Firstly, the density of the area plays a relevant role, and often there is a lack of huge areas, in the end large enough to develop a restorative environment, making it impossible to integrate green spaces large enough to escape the stressful everyday life. If a suitable plot of land is found and available, this does not automatically mean that it will be used for restorative areas. Attractive green spaces are a luxury that should pay off for the city in the long term. That is why the profitable option, using the spaces for business or construction purposes, is usually chosen. Nevertheless, the Office for City Planning is trying to promote for more and more green and water areas in urban development. If the decision is made in favor of a green space, the concept of the restorative environment is developed based on the structure of the area and the financial scope. In addition, the maintenance costs for these areas need to always be kept in mind, especially for upkeep and keeping them clean. In the past, the city of Aalen has been able to build multifunctional areas which fulfilled all of the necessities we just talked about. One example is the restorative area above the Rombach tunnel, which also serves as flood retention. The city is also pressing ahead with renaturation measures for the river Kocher and intends to gradually improve the extent of inner-city green spaces in the future with specific plans.
A big thank you to the City Aalen for sharing their thoughts and also why integrating restorative environments can be so challenging. I think it's great to see that they are actively working on that and also on creating spaces that support well-being, and it can make a real difference in urban planning. I really would like to share some more details about mental health with you guys. So let's focus again on the key factors of mental health. So mental health is more than just the absence of illness. It is a state of well-being that helps us manage stress and to reach our potential, to work productively and also to engage with our community. And it's shaped by a mix of factors. And one factor is the individual, for example, the genetics or emotional skills. Then the second factor is the social, so relationships or education or our working conditions. And the last one is structural. So here we come to safe environments, for example. The role of urban design plays a key role in mental health. Well-planned housing or green spaces and also public areas can reduce stress and improve the well-being. To explore this, we spoke with Christian Bitter from Stadtbau München. It's a company that develops sustainable housing projects, and he will share some insights on how thoughtful urban planning can create spaces that actively support mental health. He will introduce one of his favorite projects to us.
People need to feel good in all areas of their lives. Housing is an essential part of this. This is exactly what the planners have set themselves as their goal for the new Prinz Eugen Park quarter in Munich. The first residents have been living there since 2016. Today around 1,800 apartments in a wide variety of housing types have been occupied. A major contribution has been made by cooperatives which have been promoting the community for over 100 years. In addition, municipal housing associations, private investors and building communities have built. The plan is based on 4 to 5-story apartment buildings and 3-story densely built single-family homes. There's a lot of space between the buildings for private green spaces and gardens where vegetables and fruit are grown. A comprehensive local supply network in the district ensures short distances in everyday life. In terms of landscape planning, large parks, partially preserved old trees and large playgrounds form the open structure of the outdoor areas. A total of 21 developers has, moderated by Stadtbau München, joined forces to form a consortium to implement mobility concepts that make it possible to live without one's own car and to secure common spaces for private encounters in everyday life in the district. The core of the overall concept is to give people in Prinz Eugen Park the opportunity to have their voices heard. For this reason, a participation structure was developed. Residents can pass on their issues and problems to a qualified community, also made up of residents. The head and the heart of this participation structure is the district management. In terms of content, it takes care of the mobility elements and explains how they work. The concerns and suggestions of these residents organizes free markets, a clothing exchange and bookcasing for free loan and donated books. In terms of space, it is a meeting place that also includes a cafe. A professional bike shop offers help with everything related to bicycles. In Prinz Eugen Park, people can live and relax without stress. Intelligently planned and built residential areas and cities can promote mental health.
It sounds so great. So thank you a lot, Christian. I think this is a perfect positive example. This project was especially designed to reduce stress by, for example, using short distances, plenty of green spaces, the minimal of cars, and low noise levels as well. And I think a cool fact about it is that they have this active participation to ensure that the project keeps driving. So thank you for your great insights, Christian, and see you next time.
So finally, on stressful days, even a short break in nature can make a big difference for me, and I think for you too as well, and hopefully for our listeners as well. Hannah, would you bring restorative elements into your own home?
Sure, I'd love to. Unfortunately, I don't have a green thumb. But I'm helping myself with some paper plants. Classic paper plants. And yeah, my mom got me some scented oil, which smells like forest. So I just put it into my room, and every time I come home, it feels like a fresh scent. It's like fresh thoughts, and it just feels like home. So
that's super cool. So you're using the elements of having some plants. I mean, it's fake plants, but it's still plants. And the sense. Do you think that really makes your place feel like home?
Definitely. I think plants are a super important point, and also the sense, aside from having people around who I like and who I love spending time with.
For me, it's the same. And I also would say that also like the material, for example, in my home, I try to use wood or things that include wood. For example, my bed is out of wood, but it's really nice because you see like those natural textures, and this really helps my mind to feel like, oh, this is like a nice cozy space where I can relax. This is also our recommendation for you at home. So you really can try to build a restorative environment into your home that will help your brain to suffer less from stress and from the crowded city life. So you have a mental break and can regain your attention into your own home.
Yeah, maybe just for the beginning, I think one room should be enough. Make it as perfect as you could possibly do. And whenever you need a break, this room is just the one for you.
Yeah, and maybe then you can see a difference. Also, when you have to learn, maybe you learn in this room and it helps you to relax more. So thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us today. It was really nice that you shared your insights with us. It was nice to hear your perspective on the topic. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
And now to our listeners, next time, whenever you feel overwhelmed, just take a moment, step outside and reconnect with your surroundings. You might discover just how much your city actually has to offer. You just have to experience it. And with that, thanks for listening to Sustainable Voices. Let your voice drive change. If you like this podcast, check out the other episodes of Sustainable Voices.